Hey, what's going on, everyone? So today I want to go through my top 15 muscle gain lessons from 15 years of training. I'm 34 years old right now, and I've been strength training consistently since I was about 19. And I want to share what I've learned in my own personal journey and through working with others. And for those who don't know who I am, my name is Luke Briggs. I'm the owner of the Total Life Fitness Academy. We specialize in helping parents and busy professionals lose body fat, build muscle, and have more energy. I've been a coach for over a decade and have worked with nearly 3,000 clients. Also, if you're listening to the show, it would mean the world to me if you would go to the page, that's the Total Life Fitness podcast page, either on Spotify or iTunes or wherever you're listening, and give us a 5-star rating and review, because that helps the show grow and reach more people. So if you've been impacted by the show, or if you like what you've heard, we'd love for you to do that. So I'm going to share my lessons, and these are in no particular order. So my first muscle gain lesson that I've learned through my years of experience is that patience is key. Number one, patience is key. And to be honest, this probably is the number one lesson. Building muscle takes a long time. According to research from Dr. Stuart Phillips, he tested a 12-week program and says the average person can put on about 4 to 7 pounds of muscle in 3 months. And according to researcher and author Alan Aragon, who is the author of The Lean Muscle Diet, a beginner lifter can gain 2 to 3 pounds of muscle per month. An intermediate lifter can gain 1 to 2 pounds per month, and an advanced lifter can gain a half pound of muscle per month. So this may not seem like a lot, but to gain like true muscle mass, this is actually pretty impressive. I have lots of thoughts on this, but basically it's not easy. It's easier if you're a beginner or if you're coming off of a long layoff to build more muscle, because your body's just primed and ready. We have a lot of people who come inside our program who end up gaining a lot of muscle in the beginning. And especially for someone who's coming in and wanting to lose weight, they'll go through a body recomposition where they'll lose body fat and build muscle at the same time, just because their body is set up more so to do it, because hasn't had a stimulus recently. So those are the times, either when you're a beginner or coming off a long layoff, when you're going to probably enjoy training the most, because you're going to have the newbie gains or the beginner gains all over again. It's important to just be patient and stick with the process. Like, I think we all want to, get all our results in the next 3 weeks or in the next, 3 months. But I mean, it's taken years. And I've talked about this before, but I'm going through a cutting phase right now. I'm cutting down for a photo shoot, and I spent basically like 16 months bulking or adding muscle. And at the end of this whole thing, after I cut back down, like I might only put on, 10 pounds of muscle in like 2 years, or 10, 15 pounds of muscle, which is actually pretty good for someone who's been training for a while. But it's just to say that, like, be patient. If you stick with the process, you do the things that you need to do on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, you'll get there. So number one, patience is key. Number two lesson is, if you want to build muscle consistently for a long time, choose exercises that don't hurt and exercises that you can do a lot of volume with. If you want to build muscle consistently over a long period of time, pick exercises that don't hurt your body and that you can do a lot of volume with. I used to do a lot of powerlifting, and that's barbell back squat, bench press, deadlift. Not that there's anything wrong with barbell exercises. I'm a huge fan of them. They're great. They stimulate a lot of muscle growth. They work a lot of muscle mass at once. However, I've recently shifted to a heavy emphasis on machines. I use cables. So for example, instead of doing like a barbell deadlift to train my hamstrings and glutes, I'll do things like, lying leg curls. I'll do things like seated leg curls. I will do like wide stance leg press. I will do glute bridges. I'll do hip thrust variations, frog pumps, things like that, because those are just going to not fatigue my central nervous system as much. Right now, the amount of time that I want to devote to training is about 45 to 60 minutes per session. And I understand I might not get maximal results with that, but I'm okay, because this isn't the number one priority in my life. If I train with barbells, it's going to take a lot of time. I mean, if I'm working up to like, a 300 plus pound squat, I need to do like a warm up set with the barbell. Then I need to do 135, then 185, then 225, then 265 or 275. And then I get to 300. And it's like, it's already been like 30 minutes by the time I've even gotten to my working sets after the warm up and everything. And then it's like literally my entire workout is just the squats. So if I want to get in more exercise and more volume, I'm going to pick things that are safer. Not that barbell squats aren't safer, but if I want to get a lot of volume in a short period of time, I would not recommend going heavy and hard without resting adequately with barbell exercises. So for me, I'm going to opt for more machine-based, more dumbbells, more kettlebells, more cables, things like that, because those are things that are going to feel good on my joints and feel good on my body and not cause as much fatigue. So number 3, muscle building lesson, leave your ego at the door. Number 3, leave your ego at the door. I remember this like it was yesterday. So when I was an in-person personal trainer, this had to be 8, 9, 10 years ago. I was doing trap bar deadlifts. And this is when I was training powerlifting style, where I try to lift as much weight as possible. I remember there was a class going on and I was off training on the side by myself. And I wanted to hit a PR on trap bar deadlifts, which for me at the time was 465 for 5 reps. And for many people listening, that might be like nothing. For some people, that might seem like a lot, but for me at the time, it was good. And I remember like doing the lift, and when I was doing the lift, I was like hyping myself up for it. Like my back was rounding horribly. I was just grinding it out. And then, I got done with my 5th rep. I'd set a PR. I was happy for about 10 seconds. And then my back hurt. It was like probably like 1 or 2 people might have been watching me and they might have thought, oh, that's cool for about 10 seconds. And then they move on to what they're doing. And it's like I literally did that all to stoke my own ego for about 10 seconds. And then literally for like the next month after that, like I couldn't even deadlift or squat or do anything that required spinal loading because I had just like crushed my body. I'd crushed my back. I just had to do like a lot of upper body stuff or lower body things that didn't hurt. And it wasn't worth it at all. Now I just use lighter weights and I use pristine form. So it may make me feel weak, or it may make us feel weak by going down in weight, but I'd rather be perceived as weak by someone else than feel like a beast for about 10, 20 seconds, but then be hurt for the next month. So what I've learned is that it's really more important just to focus on form with lower weights, because you can make the weight feel however heavy you want by your intention with it. So leaving my ego at the door has been a huge lesson for me. Number four lesson is activate the working muscle. Number 4 lesson, activate the working muscle. And this all starts with controlling the movement, not worrying about speed or going as fast as possible. So it's not moving slowly, it's just moving under control. Like we don't necessarily need to count like, 3 seconds down, 1 second up, just think about controlling. So for example, like if we're doing a back exercise, I see this mistake all the time a lot of people make, is that they're not even working their back muscles when they're doing like a row, because they're just pulling with their hands. So our bodies don't know, hey, I'm doing a row, this should be a back exercise. Our body just knows the muscle that feels activated. So if we want to do back exercise, we need to learn how to actually retract our shoulder blades, or scapular retraction and depression, or put your elbow in the back pocket, squeeze your shoulder blades together, whatever cue works for you, so that you can actually feel the working muscles. Before I do any exercises right now, I do lighter weights and I focus on feeling the targeted muscle. So for example, if I'm doing a lateral delt raise and I'm working my side delts with dumbbells, I might just like with my hands, lift my elbows up, focus on just squeezing my lateral delts. And, I might try different arm angles, see whatever feels best that day, so that I've actually activated the muscle before I'm even going into the movement. Same thing if I'm like training hamstrings, if I'm doing lying leg curls where, I'm chest down, curling my legs up toward me. Then what I do is I just start with a lighter weight, make sure that I'm actually feeling my hamstrings working before I go to a heavier weight. So activating the working muscles has definitely been helpful. Number 5 lesson. Number 5 is that food portions are key. Food portions are key. I used to just eat healthy and then I would eyeball my foods. I would just think like, oh, that looks like about a serving. And then I would gain muscle over time, but it was more so just happening by accident. It wasn't because of anything intentional. It was more so just I was training. I hadn't trained seriously before. I was probably eating a little bit better, but I never saw substantial progress until I actually started weighing foods and tracking foods. That was an absolute game changer. The first time I hired a coach, I actually had to report and track things, and it was really eye-opening because what I thought I was taking in versus what I was actually taking in were completely different things. So it's just like making a budget with your finances. A lot of times, like we don't even realize how much money we're spending until we actually track it. Or we'll have these one-off expenses for a month, and we'll think like, oh, well, this is the only time this is going to happen all year. My budget's not normally like this, but then every single month we have something that's not normal, and we should just assume that. It's the same thing with eating. Every single month, every single week, we're going to have not normal quote unquote things, but in reality, they are normal. So bringing awareness to my portions really helped me grow muscle much better. Number 6 lesson, supplements do not matter that much. Number 6 lesson, supplements really don't matter that much. So I'm a huge Green Bay Packers fan. And in the 2010 season, so this would have been in February of 2011, the Packers won the Super Bowl, defeating the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I was super happy. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to go out to the store and get a championship t-shirt to commemorate the Packers winning. And that was before, Amazon was as popular. It probably was popular at that point, but I was still going in person. Now I pretty much order everything on Amazon. But, I went into the mall and I got that t-shirt. Now, as I was walking out of the mall, this was like a couple weeks after I had started following more fitness stuff online. I'd actually started like researching things, looking things up. So I'd heard about supplements. And at this point, I was completely green when it came to anything about nutrition. Like I literally did not know a thing about nutrition. I didn't even know like what a calorie was. And this was when I was 22 years old. So after the Packers won the Super Bowl, again, I went and got the t-shirt and I was walking through the store and I saw the supplement store. And there were all these, shiny, cool looking supplements. And I just decided, let me just walk into the store and see what this is all about. Because I had seen, other like ripped, muscular guys advertising, supplements, and I thought, well, maybe this is the way to go. So I remember I talked to the rep there, and then $143 later, I walked out with like 4 different supplements. And for me at the time, 143 was quite a bit. So I was like, what am I doing? Hopefully this will work. And he told me to take like all these different supplements at this different time, and it was like probably one was like a mass gain, which is like protein plus carbs. Another one was like protein powder, probably just regular whey protein powder. I can't even remember what the other ones were, but I had like 4, it was like 3 or 4 different supplements that I was taking because I wanted to put on muscle size. And after taking them for about a month or two, I followed pretty much exactly what the guy told me. I mean, I looked in the mirror and I looked exactly the same. Like nothing had really changed because I didn't realize that at the time, but supplements really don't matter that much if you're not taking in the appropriate number of calories or the appropriate amount of protein. And it was only later that I actually realized this. A big influence for me for understanding the priority of importance when it comes to nutrition was Dr. Eric Helms put together the muscle and strength nutrition pyramids, where he listed in order when it comes to muscle or body composition and strength goals, what the most important things with nutrition are. And they are number 1, by far, energy balance, calories in, calories out. You can have the perfect supplement routine, but if you're still taking in either too many or too few calories, it's not going to matter. Number 2 is macronutrients, your proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. Number 3, micronutrients, vitamins and minerals. Number 4, most important thing, nutrient timing. And number 5, and least important thing, is supplements. Because supplements really don't matter that much. Number 7 lesson is train all muscle groups, not just your favorites. Train all muscle groups, not just the ones that you like. So for many years, my routine when I would walk into the gym, this was when I was, in my early 20s, would be I would just train every other day. So it didn't matter what day it was. It's just I would do a day of training, then I would rest. I would do a day of training, then I would rest. I would go in, I would do bench press, I would do flat barbell bench press because you have to bench press every single time you're in the gym. Then number two, I would do either decline or incline bench press. Then I think I would do like some sort of other variation. I would do like biceps, triceps. I don't even know what I did. I probably just did a bunch of dumb stuff, but it was all upper body. And I used to just completely ignore legs. I would like see all these leg machines. I have no idea what they were because I thought, well, I play basketball, I do sports, I'm training my legs, but I wasn't actually training them for muscle growth. So once I actually started training other muscle groups, I started training legs, I started training, back muscles better, I started training, rear shoulders. I actually noticed a difference in overall muscle growth. So training all muscle groups definitely made a huge difference, not just the ones that I enjoyed. Number 8 lesson for muscle growth for me is that you don't need to lift maximum weights to build muscle. Number 8, you don't need to lift maximum weights to build muscle. And we alluded to this a little bit already earlier, but I used to do powerlifting and I used to just back squat, bench press, and deadlift. So there's research done by Dr. Brad Schoenfeld, a researcher, who says that there are 3 key components of muscle growth, and they are mechanical tension, muscle damage, and metabolic stress. Mechanical tension, muscle damage, and metabolic stress. So mechanical tension is basically the time your muscle spends under tension. Muscle damage, when you lift weights, your body rebuilds muscles bigger and stronger so that it can withstand future stressors. And then metabolic stress causes fatigue in your muscle, builds up metabolites in the muscle fiber. So you kind of have that pump feeling. That is metabolic stress. And those are the 3 key components of muscle growth. So I definitely didn't need to do that. I just needed to focus on those 3 things, just time under tension, damaging the muscles, which would happen often as a byproduct, and then getting the metabolic stress, the buildup of metabolites in the muscle fibers. Number 9 lesson is never stop learning. Number 9, never stop learning. The more I learn, the more I realize I don't know. I still have a lot to learn, and my thoughts have changed a lot over the years. As you've already heard me share numerous examples, there's so many things that I used to believe that I don't believe anymore. I believe that as soon as you stop learning, you're going to start going backwards. And that's one thing that I don't want to do is I don't want to go backwards. I want to keep learning, understanding more because more research will come out, more even anecdotal evidence. A lot of times we look only at the research, but not at the quote unquote bro science of stuff that, you just know works just from doing it. So I like talking to other people. I like, reading blogs. I like watching YouTube videos, listening to podcasts, and just learning different materials. So that's one thing that's been really helpful for me is just never stop learning. Number 10, it's harder to gain muscle than it is to lose fat. Number 10, it's harder to gain muscle than it is to lose fat. Now, I want to be clear. I'm not saying losing body fat is easy, and it is more difficult for some people. As someone who's done, photo shoots, physique shows, things like that, I've gone through both bulking and cutting phases, and I can tell you without question, eating in a calorie surplus to bulk or gain muscle size definitely takes more time and is harder because you need to eat more calories. I think the highest I've gotten with calories is 4,600 calories per day. And I've even interviewed bodybuilders on the show who got, north of 7,000 calories per day. And it's like literally all you're doing is just eating. And you're not just eating junk food, like you're eating, decent quality food. And I think when I was at I was at 4,600 calories, I believe I was eating 660 grams of carbs per day. And I remember I was even taking in like carb powder, like because it was just like I was just stuffing myself. I couldn't even eat anymore. I remember I would just be up for like an hour and a half at night, trying to choke down a chicken breast because I just couldn't even fathom like eating it. So it's way harder just from a time standpoint to bulk. I know everyone always, who's on 1,500 calories right now says, "Oh, I wish I could eat that much." And no, you don't. You do not wish you could eat that much. It is definitely, not super fun, but I digress. So taking in fewer calories just takes shorter amounts of time. And right now I'm in a calorie deficit. I'm at, 2,400 calories per day. And what it comes down to is that excess body fat is your body just saying, hey, you took in more calories than I can handle right now. So I'm just going to store these excess calories and then save them for later. Whereas building muscle involves actually adding active mass. Building muscle, you actually add active muscle mass. So like you never hear about someone gaining 30 pounds in 4 months of actual muscle. Like sure, you can gain 30 pounds in 4 months, but probably have mostly fat. Versus like someone might be able to actually lose 30 pounds in 4 months and look a lot better physically or feel better physically, and they have lost mostly body fat because it's just easier to release body fat than it is to actually put on muscle, especially if you are not a beginner. Number 11, either bulk hard or cut hard. There's no in between. Either bulk hard or cut hard. I used to add calories, but then as soon as it looked like I was adding a little bit of body fat, I would stop and then I would cut. And then on the other end, I'd start leaning out because I had a little bit too much body fat. Then I didn't like that I was losing a little bit of muscle, so I would add more calories back in, and then it was a vicious cycle. What I've really noticed is that you'll always get better results in anything in life, for that matter, when you hyper focus on something. Always get better results when you hyper focus on something. So it involves picking a goal and then just going with that goal. So if your goal is to gain muscle size, do that. You can't try to bulk for 3 weeks and then you do a mini cut for 1 week and then bulk. You're not going to get anywhere. Just pick something. There are going to be some, things that you don't like along with it, but overall, you're going to be better off for it because if you keep, bulk and cutting, you're never really going to go anywhere, and then your physique is never going to change. So pick something and go with it. Number 12, always start your training with your weak side if you're doing a single limb exercise. Number 12, always start with your weak side. So I picked this up from a mentor of mine many years ago, probably back in, 2011. And every time he trained, he would always say, use your weak side first. So I'm right-handed, so I'd always use things, if I was doing like a single arm dumbbell row, I would always do my left hand first because I'm going to be less fatigued and I can bring up my weak side a little bit more. That way I'm not super dominant on my right side. Same thing if I'm doing a leg exercise, if I'm doing like a split squat or a rear foot elevated split squat, I'll always do my left side first because I'm right foot dominant. So I always do my weak side first. Number 13. Number 13 is the scale isn't the end all be all for progress. More so in the short term, the scale isn't the end all be all for progress, especially in the short term. Long term, that's different. I've learned that the scale is my body against gravity at one arbitrary moment in time. I remember I used to always step on the scale, and when my goal was gaining muscle, if the scale didn't go up and it even went down because I was gaining muscle size at the time, I would freak out. I'd be like, what the heck? This is, crap. I felt like I ate a lot yesterday. And I would just tie my self-worth or how I felt for the day based off what the scale said. And the scale, one thing it doesn't say is anything about muscle relative to body fat. The scale doesn't say you have X% muscle. You might have lost weight, but you actually gained muscle if your goal is to gain muscle size. And in the short run, we're going to have fluctuations. Like day to day, there are going to be different fluctuations. One day it's going to be up, the next day it's going to be down, the next day it's going to be up. It's going to be all over the place. However, what I would say is in the long run, if your goal is to put on muscle size, you're going to gain weight. If you're not gaining weight over the long run, you're probably not really putting on muscle. And it's just inevitable. And it's the same thing with fat loss. Over time, if you're not also losing weight, unless you are just putting on a crazy amount of muscle, you're going to lose weight as a result of losing fat as well. So long term, it is a fairly decent measure of progress. Not the end all be all, but it is a measure of progress. Number 14 lesson. Building muscle is for more than just bodybuilders. Number 14 lesson, building muscle is for more than just bodybuilders. I used to just think it was just for looks, it was just for aesthetics, but it's really functional for all ages. Especially as we get older, growing muscle becomes even more important. It reduces the risk of injury or fractures because as you build muscle, when you're strength training, you're also going to improve bone mineral density. It also just makes everyday tasks easier. You're just going to have more strength to be able to do things, whether that's picking something up, whether that's playing with your kids, whether that's, hiking, whether it's a sport, doing something for performance. Muscle also boosts your metabolism, which makes it easier to control weight because lean muscle tissue is more metabolic. You're going to burn off more calories. Increasing muscle mass can also help regulate blood sugar levels. Muscle allows your body to store more glycogen in your muscles, which is going to help regulate blood sugar levels. So building muscle is for more than just bodybuilders. Number 15, the last one is accountability is key. At least for me, I've found accountability is key. I've noticed that I take my training and goals way more seriously when I have a coach. When I'm just doing it on my own, I do well for a period of time, but it's easy to fall off track. Now I'll get back on track Monday next month. But when I have someone who I need to check in with each week, I track my metrics, I do my progress photos, I do my measurements, I do my weight, I do it consistently under the same conditions. It just forces me to do it, and I tend to see better progress. The first time I saw really good progress in a short period of time was when I worked with a coach, and then I hired a coach a couple of years ago, and still been working with the same coach to this day, and it's really been helping me a lot. Just see better progress, have someone point out my blind spots. Even though I am a coach myself, it just really helps keep me on track. So those are my 15 lessons. That's not an exhaustive list. I'm sure I'll have more in the future, but for now, those are 15 lessons that have served me well. Hopefully, you found at least one of these beneficial for you. And if you have any further questions or want to follow up on anything, if you go into the show notes, you can see all our links, and feel free to check out our stuff and resources, reach out. And until next time, we will chat soon.